Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing my review for Invincible Iron Man issue 11. And I really enjoyed this issue because it was an interesting kind of take that they did. It was pretty much set up as three kind of stories, more filling in characters about Tony Stark. And they had it separated by artists doing kind of different stuff with it, and it was pretty good. Though in certain respects, certain art was a little bit weird on certain things, and I noticed some errors, strangely enough, that were in kind of dialogue, but they didn't overall detract my enjoyment of what we kind of learned going through the whole issue. So it starts out, and we see Tony's mom, Amanda, kind of having lunch by herself, and then Mary Jane asks to have lunch with her, and starts getting into the story of the first time she actually met Tony Stark, which wasn't when he was like courting her to take over and run stuff for Stark Industries. And she starts telling us about how she was like doing this runway thing and all of that. It was like her week, and we see this one panel in there that it really doesn't look like her face. That was the one part that I was like, okay, but other than that, I really liked the art style that was going through this. And she's getting ready to do it, and of course, Iron Man crashes in the old school suit, and this is the time when Tony was still going on that Iron Man was his bodyguard. So, of course, she's at a bar getting talked to by other people, and then he comes by to kind of apologize and hit on her. And it was kind of cool because Mary Jane kind of like shuts him down, and then they actually get to talking and talking about their fathers and why they kind of drink. And Tony's like, well, I wanted to get out of there. He didn't really like his dad and didn't think his dad saw good in him, and that's kind of why he went, and kind of similar to why Mary Jane left as well. And they're kind of bonding over that, and then they kind of get more into the experience of like why Tony drinks because he wants to, and it's similar to her father, and he's like, that's alright, because he had opened with pretty much taking her to the Caribbean, pretty much doing what he usually does, like doing the suave playboy thing, and she kind of like catches him on it. He's like, you know what? That usually works, but I usually don't trust the standards of women that it works on. And seeing him just kind of like actually talk with someone, not have the playboy facade up, was kind of interesting. And I like it when they do those kind of takes where you see the different facets of Tony. You see the playboy doing the playboy stuff, and then you see like a kind of realer Tony actually coming through talking to Mary Jane. So, of course, they get to that point where she compares him to her father, and he's like, well, alright, well, I really think you're something special, and that's just honestly what I wanted to say. And then he kind of leaves, and then, of course, we shift to back to the present, and we see Riri Williams coming in, and this was another part where there was kind of, this is the first part where it was a glitch, where instead of saying Mary Jane, it said Many Jane. I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. Because Riri Williams comes in, they're talking about all of her stuff with like Latveria and all that, and they're like, oh, we're just reminiscing about Tony and all that. And like, oh, how about the first time I actually met Tony? Which I thought was kind of interesting that she goes into her tale about how her stepdad was pretty much trying to butter her up and everything and took her out for a daddy-daughter date. And seeing her go into detail, and I just like how they condensed it into one panel, and seeing them kind of go through the different stuff, playing arcade games, getting pretzels and all that, seeing her first R-rated movie that was a comedy and all that, and just kind of like seeing them go through them all, and then it kind of starts getting more serious as we see people being kind of like under stress and everything and kind of like afraid, and they go outside and it's the Skrulls attacking. And, of course, we see the stepdad to be grab Riri and pretty much start to try and run, but then, of course, she sees that, of course, they're flying for some reason, and that Iron Man had saved them. And, of course, he's like, alright, you're alright, okay. And he pretty much gets ready to leave. And we get Riri's perspective being like, oh, there's something wrong with his right boot. But, of course, this is where the kind of error again occurs, where she's talking with her dad and says that it's the left boot that was weird. It was just, there are usually not that many errors in this, and it didn't really take me out of what was going on. It was just, whoa, okay, that's kind of new, because she was like, oh, his left boot was glitching when she was telling the story to the people in the present. She said it was the right that was going off or whatnot, and saying that she knew how to fix it. And, of course, that helped spur her to be wanting to become a person like Iron Man and everything. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. So, of course, then we get back to the present, and they're talking to Friday, and she's like, well, if you want to know more about Tony Stark, Amanda, all you have to do is ask. And then, of course, it shifts to another art style that I really liked. It was more kind of anime-inspired, in my opinion, but it still felt like it fit within the framework of what has been going on. And, of course, we had seen a regular kind of style that we've been used to with the Skrulls, and, of course, I love how they do that, especially Riri's armor. So it was kind of nice to see this other kind of take, and she gets into all this stuff that Tony's been doing, that he has made a place to rehabilitate his rogues gallery, which is a really cool thing for Tony to do. You really wouldn't think about it, but of course he's a futurist. He's like, you know what? I don't want to keep fighting these bad guys over and over again. What if I pay to, like, rehabilitate them? It sounds like a Tony Stark thing to do. So it was kind of cool to see that, and then thinking about that, and then we get to a part where we see that since he was learning about, he was adopted by his parents, that he has gone into, like, helping to fund orphanages and all that, and that he would hold babies and visit them. And it was just a nice kind of other human facet that we haven't really seen of Tony Stark. Just seeing that kind of was pretty cool, and seeing how that affected everyone around him, and how they kind of see him in a different light will be kind of interesting to see going forward. So, of course, Amanda is like, all right, give them everything that they need and all that. And, of course, Friday's kind of like stuck. And they're like, do we need to reboot her or anything? She's an AI. And if anything, it would be the hologram that would be glitching. And then if something's going on that Riri is talking about. And, of course, we go, and she's like, Tony Stark, searching, gone. And at first I think, oh, God, he's dead. And she's like, no, he's just gone. So it's like, did Tony wake up? Did somebody take his body? What's going on? Has AI Tony gone off the rails? Is he technically possessing Tony's body? These are some interesting questions that I hope we get answers to, as now I think we've seen the setup for the next arc where Riri and the rest of the people are like, we gotta go find Tony Stark. So that's a pretty cool hook to lead us into what should be going on after Secret Empire and kind of into the future of what's going on with Invincible Iron Man. So those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.